And meanwhile, Metro Globe's Mercy Wijaya spoke with the managing director of Google Indonesia, who reiterated that Indonesia's digital economy was actually growing faster than expected.
Thank you, Pak Randy, for your time. I have a few questions regarding your report in collaboration with Bain and Company and also Temasek. It is about the Indonesia's digital economy right now. Despite of the headwinds, global economic headwinds this year, Indonesia digital economy will still grow 22% this year. Does this speak to the resilience of Indonesia's digital economy?
Yes, definitely. This is our seventh report that we did together with Temasek as well as with Bain and Company. As you rightfully said, despite all the headwinds that we saw, digital economy continued to grow. In fact, not only it grew 22% to 77 billion in Indonesia, it actually grew to that level 3 years earlier than what we originally expected. We actually originally expected that growth only come 3 years later. So it's much earlier. And if you look into some of the details, essentially every categories grew, even though they grew at different pace, whether it's e-commerce, online travel, ride-hailing, food delivery, as well as online media.
What about the development of startup industry in Indonesia? Do you see a drop in investment trend this year? And how do you see it next year?
Yeah, so the report talks about the investment up to first half of this year compared to last year. So if you compare apple to apple, actually at the Southeast Asia level, the investment level remains the same, in fact increased a little bit. If you look at the investment specifically in Indonesia, you see a little bit of a drop. However, you actually see an increase in Singapore. That said, if, as you know, a lot of investment that comes to Singapore, actually the money and the business are also invested across Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. So that's one part to answer your question. But if I may add, there is still quite a lot of optimism with regards to the medium and long-term potential. So VCs that we talk to saying they're expecting, valuation investment continue to grow in the next 2 to 3 years. And if you look at some of the details, you actually still see a lot of still robust and investment coming up on early stage companies, series early stage to series A, as well as series B and C on growth stage. The one where we see a bit of a challenge with regards to the investments are on the later stage company, which is E+. And clearly that is not something that is new. You read it in the news all the time. As the companies grow bigger, there's expectation in addition to growth also to move towards sustainable business model on profitability.
How do you see the startup investment trends in 2023?
Yeah, so in 2023, we expect, as I alluded to earlier, you will still see from the different stages, you'll still see continuing interest in the early stage as well as growth stage. And if you look at the different kind of categories and types of investment, you actually start seeing more investment coming into digital financial services type of startups in addition to e-commerce. So that's one trend that we talk about in this report with regards to investment. In addition to that, we also start seeing VCs investing in other categories such as health tech, such as SaaS, software as a service, as well as in some elements on Web3, especially on privacy and infrastructure.
In terms of value, do you see an increase or it will be stagnant next year?
Yeah, so the report doesn't actually do kind of a specific projection per se on dollar, but we're just looking at the trend in the past. And what we do, we actually interviewed some venture capitalists with regards to their outlook. One thing that I will say that we put in the report, there is still about $15 billion of what we call dry powder available for investment throughout Southeast Asia. So there's still money there. What I think will continue to be a dynamic situation will be the valuation. So some VCs actually will see some decrease in valuation in next year. So some valuation might change, but it also depends on the kind of company. So I think it will continue to be a robust opportunity for startup ecosystem in Indonesia. We are still very much optimistic with the potential of digital economy for overall Indonesia. We'll just go through this phase where companies has to figure out kind of what differentiates them.